Welcome to Breaking Dogma, where we challenge the rules, dismantle outdated thinking, and tell the stories of people who made a new way, because the old one wasn't built for them. I'm James Parch, and today's guest is someone who didn't just beat the odds, he changed the game. Some people wait their turn. Others build something so undeniable the system has to pay attention. So today with us, we have Dante Richardson. He's a builder, a reformer, a strategist, soon-to-be legislator. But titles don't capture what makes his story matter. This episode's not about where he came from. It's really about what he's building now and how he stayed true to the mission while so many others sell out. If you've ever felt boxed in by the traditional norms, if you've ever felt like systems were designed for someone else, this one's for you. Dante, welcome.
Thanks, James. Glad to be here. So
the way we met says a lot, right? When we first met, just to take people back before we get into your history, you weren't asking for a favor. You'd showed up in the Western New York region. You had a passion to build something, and you were relentless and unapologetic. And I know that energy really doesn't fade. And what I want to do with that is just take us back to the early days. Like, we're talking about childhood. What did ambition look like before anybody called it that? What created the ambition for you that kind of drove you through what we're going to tell everybody about today?
Poverty, being poor, and actually looking around my region. So I was one of those kids. What drove me was wondering why other people, well, I like to say other people had certain things and I didn't, or had certain things in my community didn't have them. So growing up on the east side of Buffalo, super impoverished, you'll see abandoned buildings. But then when you go to the west side or North Buffalo, you see these massive houses. Like, people live here. And what makes those people different from us?
And just for those who don't live in Buffalo, like, how far away were these two neighborhoods?
I'm talking right across the street almost. So literally Main Street separates lower income and higher income neighborhoods.
So you didn't just hear about it, you saw it every day.
Saw it.
We'll have to too. I know you've shared this with me in the past, but we'll share a photo of what that original neighborhood of yours looked like, what it looks like today, because it really hasn't changed much, and people might think it has, but when you look at it, like, that's not fake, that's what it is.
Yeah, it really hasn't changed much. Besides the gentrification that's going on the medical campus, a couple streets down from there, you still see actually low income neighborhoods.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So from there, you're living in that neighborhood. Take us through, how did you wind up in foster care, if you can share that with us? So
I wound up in foster care due to the fact that my mother had a substance abuse problem. She was a single mother. So what ended up happening was she ended up going to prison. When she went to prison, I was young. I was only roughly around 8 years old. So once you go to prison, you don't have a father around. You don't got any family members that want to take you in. You end up going into the foster care system. So 8 years old, I went into the foster care system. And within the foster care system, I was extremely defiant. And that's what led me into going into something you call child services to placement homes. And these placement homes are relevantly group homes for kids that don't adapt in foster families, because the foster families don't want anything to do with you either, because you're kind of being defiant towards whatever household rules that they set. So I ended up going into a residential home. I think the first one was called Hillside, and it was right outside of Rochester, which is interesting.
Coincidental,
right?
Yep.
Right.
Just for those, we're in Rochester recording, so that's why.
It was right outside of Rochester, and it was just a repeated cycle. My mother coming home. She came home again when I was 12. I ended up going back into the foster care system after she came home. So, it was because it was a broken childhood. My mom was stressed out. I would say probably due to her living circumstances, and used drugs as a escape to get away from her experiences that she was experiencing living in an impoverished community, not being able to get a job, not being able to get financial support, not being able to find that spouse that she actually wanted to kind of exceed her or help her out. So that's how I ended up getting into the foster care system.
And it's interesting we talk about systems, because you even talk about the foster care system, and it's not set up for everybody, whether you're defiant or not. The family system didn't work, so then they had these group homes, and we'll get into that more. But something just came up recently. It's so coincidental. Somebody had asked me. Also a bit of a troubled youth. I don't have nearly the story that you have. They had asked me about why I struggled to graduate from high school. And they asked me about programs and why I wasn't aware of them. And oftentimes, I have to imagine you've seen this far more than I could ever even fathom myself, but you don't have access to that information. So you don't know what help is even out there. So you turn to what is available. And in some cases that's substances. In some cases, it's other things that can be mentally or, physically harming.
And we're talking about in the 90s and early 2000s. So it wasn't that access to as much information that we have now, especially in upstate cities. It's not like everybody had internet and computers in their homes in the late 90s and early 2000s.
No, we're still on pagers, even if they had phones.
Exactly.
It didn't work. Dial up.
So information was passed around through what the actual community knew. And if you didn't have access to the right people, it was barriers of information for sure back then. So you really couldn't even get the help that you needed.
And historically, there's a lot of communities, especially those who we would say are impoverished or underserved, that they were exploited. So then you don't trust outside information when it comes in. You have to protect those around you because that outside information did not serve you well historically. Yeah. So even if they mean well, it's really hard to open that door and trust.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly.
So going back to the foster care system, so you're defiant. There's a lot of pent up, why can I see success there? What's different? How did you, while you were in the foster care system, how did you address that? How did you try and find your own success as a youth? Where did you take your drive and ambition or your inquisitiveness?
So one of the key things that I learned early on is that your ability to come up with new ideas to create things for yourself will kind of get you further in life. And this started off within the foster care system. I have the other kids will be there. I come up with a way for us to get more snacks, right? So I come up with a way for us to get took into the movies. So showing that being able to have ideas and to be able to mobilize people around you, you're able to get things done. And I learned that at an early age for things that you would say wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's small materialistic things.
People don't get it though. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to go to the YMCA. It cost $1 to swim. Yeah. We didn't have $1. We had food stamps. You can't spend those at the Y.
Yeah.
And my friends didn't have money. So I got a paper route and hired all them to help deliver papers. So we all had money to go do things together.
Yep.
Because without it, we didn't. What did you do? Can you share a couple of things you might have done to get those rewards for the rest of the people? I mean, you're a young leader when you were at that age.
Yeah.
Whether it was misdirected or not.
Super misdirected.
It was for you, but also you brought people along with you for that journey.
Super misdirected. So we started, one of the things that we did, you started a paper route. We started a biker club. So it was a movie called The Biker Boys Out. When we were younger, we was in foster care.
This one with the tunnel vision at the end, right?
Exactly, right? So one of the
keep the rubber side down, was it?
So what I noticed is that the older guys in the neighborhood actually rode bikes. They like riding bikes. So we roughly around 11, 12, right? The older guys was 16, 17, and they were drug dealers, but they always had a bike, like a mongoose or something. So with the other kids around us, right? I ended up putting together a group of individuals, and our whole objective was, listen, we're going to steal bikes. We're going to put them in a garage, and whenever an older kid need a bike, we're going to sell it to them because we have the ability to sell them the bikes, and we know where all the bikes are. So that was one of the things that we put together, that I put together as a young kid, and it was actually a successful venture.
Did you think at the time, and I mean, thinking as a youth, right? Are you thinking about this is illegal, or we're taking something else? Or are you more thinking about we are all trying to make something better for ourselves, and this is a means to that end?
Exactly. So we didn't look at it as it being illegal because we knew that we couldn't get in trouble, right? We were smart enough to know at that age, okay, if we take this bike, worst thing that's going to happen to us, they're just going to take it back, right? So we knew that we actually couldn't get in trouble.
I mean, it makes sense as kids, right?
Yeah,
obviously,
as kids.
As adults, it's different. But.
And what was interesting about it is the bikes that we were taking were from suburban communities. So we would literally ride our bikes way out to suburban communities and grab bikes. And we was thinking their parents could buy them another one anyway, right? And we used to use that money like to buy food for ourselves. If other foster kids kind of like ran away, we helped them out, buy food for them as well too. I was one of those guys who always looked out for the underdogs or for the less privileged. And those was one of the means that I did when I was a kid. I think that was one of probably the most good times to where I realized my organization skills actually worked. Was around that.
That's interesting. So, I mean, the way I'm hearing that personally is just like most people think survival is about chaos, but real ones really know it's about strategy without safety nets is really what it sounded like. Like this was less about what you were taking and more about what you're providing. Almost the Robin Hood mindset, if you will, right?
You would say that, yep.
Yeah, but the thing is, once you've built it that way, you don't unlearn it, but you can redirect it. And I'm dying to get to that. But before we get there, it sounds like you really weren't provided much direction, so you created it for yourselves. What's a moment from back then that just shows how your instincts were always pointed at something bigger, even if the system may not have recognized it at the time?
So one of the key things that I knew my instincts, or just one of the moments that I really knew that I was bigger than my environment was actually when I was in middle school. So during the time of middle school, it was 2001, and the planes crashed, right, in New York City.
Yeah.
Right. And when the planes crashed, they hit the buildings. Everybody was kind of like scared. You know, they was evacuating the schools and all of that stuff. They depended on me to kind of like keep the class in order with the kids.
The adults.
Yeah, the adults. Because I was kind of like the class clown. I was the one who everybody always came up to. If I told you to be quiet, you would listen to me before you listen to the teacher. So during 9/11, what was interesting was that I saw the adults depend on me to organize kids that they were supposed to have control over.
How'd that feel? Like to get recognition from authority figures that I'm assuming historically probably were not your favorite people to blend with. So how did that make you feel to get recognition from them that you had influence over an outcome that they desired?
One of at the time I didn't feel no way about it, but just going over it as I got as an adult, like, okay, when did I start noticing that my leadership skills were valued by authority figures or people that's supposed to be in a higher position than me? And when I reevaluated that situation, I think it was during 9/11, I was like, I remember during 9/11 where I was at that day, and they literally asked me to make sure the class was calm. Even the teacher, she was kind of like discombobulated from the whole situation. And we're way up in upstate New York. Like nobody's shooting no planes here, but she was discombobulated, and her and the teacher assistant, the kids was crying, and I was the one who they kind of like made round up all the kids.
And I'm a couple years older than you, and even I reflect back on that date, and I don't think the gravity of the situation hit me as a junior in high school. Mm-hmm. Whereas, I mean, the teachers, if that happened today with the age we're at, we understand the implications globally. Mm-hmm. Back then, I mean, I knew it was a big deal and I understood it was something serious. I don't think I truly grasped how serious a situation like that is for any nation to go through. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing that somebody as an adult who's potentially losing their composure still had the wherewithal to say, I know somebody the kids respect, look up to. And if he falls in line, they're all going to fall in line with them. So I'm going to ask him to help me. And it puts you on the same level as them rather than being told to go do something.
Exactly. And one of the key things that I saw was I noticed that, okay, this is supposed to be you guys' job. If I have to actually make sure the kids feel safe, At that young age, I'm like, okay, I should be able to do your job. I should be able to get paid for this, right?
There's the defiance. There's the defiance. We're back to it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. But I still feel that way. I mean, we see so many people in business, and I think we idolize, or we put these people on a pedestal thinking that they must be something special. And a lot of them are. They can think about things in the future that we can't even grasp how it could be real, and they can see the path to it being real. But there's also a lot of people who are in positions of influence and power that are there by chance, or maybe they're not just there by chance, but they should be there as beacons of hope to the rest of us, that if they can get there, so can we, rather than saying, oh, they don't deserve it. Well, if you don't think they deserve it, I mean, do something about it. So we're going to get into how you did something about it. But you talk about this teacher, and this is actually a great segue into the next section I want to walk into when we talk about foster care and some of the programs you went through. But something that stays true in my mind from stories that you've shared with me is sometimes the system doesn't change you, and oftentimes it does, and it makes things worse, but a person does. And that's kind of where I want to segue to next. So just going back to foster care, just to share with the audience, you are also in a program through an organization called Our Lady of Victory Human Services.
Yes.
We joke around today in upstate New York about Father Baker's helping hand and a school for bad kids. It is so much more than that. It was just what our parents used to keep us in line as kids. But they did have a foster system. And there was a woman there who created a program that was called the Way Program, if I'm correct.
Yes, it was the Way Program.
So I want to talk about that. So this woman's name is Sharon. She's somebody who I actually knew before Dante came back, and it was very coincidental when he had told me this story, because this I knew this individual as well from work that I do. But the way I understand the story is, you had your little hustles going on inside of the foster care system as well to make sure you survived.
Yeah, I was in my teenage years at that time, 14 through 16.
Okay. But then there was the day that Sharon picked you up and kind of took you around to show you different opportunities through this Way program. And just to explain the Way program for people, it was almost like a work program where you could pick up different jobs that compensated you for the job that you were doing. So explain more about like what changed that day that Sharon picked you up, said, get in the car, and took you around. Like, just share that story with us, because that one still it sits with me.
So I was at Baker Victory. I was in one of the cottages, Nelson Cottage. It was a all boys cottage, mostly for troubled youth, at-risk youth. Again, me leaving the foster care system, having to go into residential placement is what landed me in Baker Victory. And while at Baker Victory, I was doing a ton of stuff to figure out how I could provide like certain type of income for myself. I mean, you had an allowance system, but that wasn't actually taking care of you, right? You couldn't really buy your own clothes. You couldn't really sustain yourself as a child, besides having like food and stuff. But you couldn't have it wasn't going to get you cell phone minutes, and this one, cell phone minutes was like a serious thing.
Is this like the foster care system form of commissary, if you will?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So one day, I think I was coming from the gym. This lady named Sharon Kavanaugh kept trying to get me to come work for the Way program, because she felt like if I joined the Way program, again, all of the other youth that was on campus would probably take initiative and try to join it. So I told her specifically, like, what is a white lady like you gonna do for me?
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
Somebody in a position of authority, you've been through everything you've been through. Clearly, there's no way somebody could understand that unless they were next to you through that journey, right? It doesn't matter where they came from. They have their own stories. Nobody could understand your journey.
Exactly. So she was adamant about getting me involved in the program. She was like, get in the car and I'll show you. So I got in the car and she just broke down the Way program, took me around all of the sites, and I ended up joining the Way program. I started off in the Way program, mopping floors, working in the cafe, selling greeting cards. I went through every training site. And then I realized, like, wait, this is not right. This is not going to turn me into nothing but a worker. Like, if I want to be a business owner, if I want to be a boss, why isn't there some direct program for the Way program to provide that opportunity?
Entrepreneurship, take that. So there's something else too I just want to touch on through the Way program that you had shared with me, and that was about what value looked like. Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding when you had shared this story with me the first time was you got paid based on the value of the job in society. So mopping the floors,
yes,
might be a little bit less than, say, bookkeeping.
Exactly.
So you had identified that, which incentivized you to work through all these different roles.
Exactly.
And then you said there's still a cap
it was still a cap.
There's still a cap to compensation.
So working in a greeting store was probably like the most beneficial one. But mopping the floors at a high school, working in a cafe, like within the kitchen, it was all based upon what value you was adding there. In the greeting store, you were selling actual greeting cards. So of course that'd be a little bit more valuable because it's based upon how many you could sell.
You could scale selling something where you can only mop so many floors because it's still time for money.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, yep, that's exactly the model that the WAY program has.
So what did it feel like though when you had that thought, like, okay, I realize that selling something or a product, I can make more, or they're making more, so they're paying me more, but there's still no way to teach me how I can start selling the product and have them work for me. Yeah, yourself.
Yeah. So one of the core things that what took me to that next level, and I say it was Sharon. The last job that I had with her was an accounting assistant at the WAY program. And this was I done went through every job site, and she was like, I was gonna quit. Like, listen, I'm not making no money here. You guys are working me like a slave. This is not gonna lead to any career path that I choose. Like, I'm not gonna work in the kitchen. I'm not gonna work at Wegmans selling greeting cards. You guys gotta give me something else. And she made me an assistant accountant. And I was actually handling all the money, paying everybody else out. And then one day, it was a guy by the name of Michael Tahiri, a lawyer, UB law professor. He owned Tahiri and Tardo Law Office. He came into the office one time because he provided mentorship to most of the kids there. And I'm arguing with Sharon about the accounting position because I felt like that wasn't leading me nowhere. All I'm doing now is just being a personal clerk to you, right? And that's probably why I got the notion that I kind of never just wanted to be under anybody. And with Sharon, she had me tucked under her just so I could still be in the program. Mike heard me and Sharon basically going at it about what I wanted to do. Like, I want to be a boss. Like, could you get me a better job? How come I can't work in stocks or in a corporation? Like, why you don't got these jobs? And Mike heard it. Mike Tahiri was like, hey, he could work for the summer with me at the law office in Williamsville. And literally from that day, I started working with Mike Tahiri. And then within the WAY program, they set up these shadowing positions for other youth on campus to go work at real estate firms, to go work at other, I think it was real estate firms, construction sites. I did an internship at Morgan Stanley Smith Barney through them. And then that was all from me voicing my concerns that we need to create career paths that actually leads us to financial success and not these specific roles that just give us 9 to 5 or minimum wage based jobs. And yeah, I think that was my defiance and my ambition kind of reshaped the WAY program with Sharon as her coming up with different program designs to help us scale to the next level.
That's what Breaking Dogma is all about here, right? Challenging the status quo, asking questions, being unapologetic in wanting to learn more. That's one of the many reasons that you're not just a friend, but you're a guest here on the show. Mm-hmm. So I want to take that further too. People really think a lot of change starts with punishment or taking things away. But sometimes it starts just with another perspective to see those alternate paths for yourself beyond what you thought was the only way. Mm-hmm. It's just, we keep going back to like when systems don't give you a playbook, you got to create your own. And if you don't, it creates frustration if you don't know how to. I mean, as a kid, we don't know how to create a playbook.
Yeah.
But most of us are afraid to ask questions or accept the answer at face value that there is no other way. And I know, you and I talk about this all the time too. There is no, I can't do that. It's how can I? And sometimes you get into some dicey territory asking those questions.
Yeah.
So, you have to create your own playbook. And oftentimes at that age or with that mentality, that playbook might not scale into adulthood the way we envision it. So just moving into the next stage of, your life and how you got where you are today, so you leave the foster care system. What happened? Did you age out or did family come home?
Yeah, I end up actually leaving the foster care system. I didn't age out. I was 16. I was old enough to where my aunt and them said, you know what? We don't have to really take care of him. He's a teenager. He could just come live with us.
Okay.
Because he's going to be able to take care of himself now.
Did that feel good?
Yeah, that kind of felt good, and I was ready to leave the foster care system anyway and to go to a regular high school.
I mean, it had failed you. It's the foster care system, but you weren't with the foster family. You were in a group home.
Yeah.
The schooling was through them. You weren't like with peers that were growing, doing other things outside of, like, you were just surrounded by a bunch of people who were in your same situation, and you knew there were other ways, but you weren't getting examples of them.
Exactly. And within that situation, they always tried to paint this identity that you have to be humble and accept what life throws at you, and that this is just your life now, right? And most of the kids fell for that, right? Like, okay, this is my life now. I'm in foster care. As soon as I leave here, I could possibly be adult. I go get a regular 9-to-5 job, pay my rent, be just a normal person, because I don't have the actual resources to level myself up outside of that middle. I wouldn't even say middle class status. I say the status, the norm of what they try to push on you as a foster care youth is how do you integrate yourself into being a civilian, and that civilian join that rat race. See, in foster care, it's like they're promoting for you to join the rat race. It's not like you're in the rat race when you're in foster care. It's like you're in this outside realm that doesn't even exist. It's like you're like, it's crazy if you think about it. It's like it doesn't exist. Like, you don't exist. You're here because nobody wants you, nobody loves you, and we have nobody to take you in. So you have to sit here and wait till you become an adult, and then that's when we kind of like feed you to the rat race, which is horrible, right? And I always knew that's where they were trying to feed me, so I always was defiant on to make sure I didn't actually get in that cycle.
That's why before I introduce you to anybody, when they're like, explain to me who Dante is, it's simple. Like, I always just tell people he was built outside the system. And the people who get it know right away what I mean. The people who don't might not have had tough struggles, or they might not understand grit. They probably went through just a really traditional, comfortable life. But then once they meet you, they always come back and are like, I know exactly what you meant. Because you don't wait for permission. You're like, I'm not going to wait. I understand that that's what you want me to do, but there's 20 different ways to do something the right way, and there's probably way more than that.
Exactly.
And you're going to try every one of them. So, okay, so you got out of the foster care system. You got back to your neighborhood. You're with family. You're starting to feel like a little bit normal. You're back in what you would consider society, but you still have the hustle. You still have the drive. You're now a growing young man. You're in your late teens. Now there's a lot of things that your neighborhood doesn't provide you. So you say, I'm old enough to start building these things for myself. So you had explained to me that you built almost like a little bit of a promotion company, right?
Yeah.
So talk us through, like, I know when we were a kid, like, we had these things called octagon dances, which were hosted outside the school. Yep. They're like little club dances, but they kept us off the streets. They kept us from dipping our toe into areas we probably shouldn't be involved in, but you didn't even have those. So you created something of that yourself.
Yeah. So how it worked was I started going to Burger High School. When I was at Burger High School, I had a group of friends. Most of us played in sports. So either you played basketball, you played football, you did track and field. We were kind of all together. And what we did within high school, as a group of friends, we created like our own little crew. Yep. And it was called TYB, Trust Your Brothers, right? And we always was with each other. And it wasn't a gang, it was just a crew. We just gave ourselves a name to identify ourselves and to look popular in front of the girls. So you kind of see that evolution now within Twitch and within these social media circles, to where these individuals build crew. But we were on the pre
Pre-squad goals.
I wasn't pre-squad goals. We were pre-social media area.
Okay.
Because it went from MySpace to Facebook. And what we were doing was creating content based upon what we were doing in high school. So we were streamers before streamers. And you really wasn't streaming. You was just posting videos on MySpace and Facebook. And you were trying to build an audience around yourself to become popular in high school. And what ended up happening was it was this older gentleman named he was a DJ. I don't even want to say his name.
That's
because I don't want to give him I don't want to give him any recognition. Because he's still one of my I wouldn't say he's a rival today, but I just don't want to give him any recognition because nobody knows him anymore. But he was an older DJ. He was probably like in his late 20s, and he used to throw these high school events. Because in high school, after high school on the weekends, you really didn't have nothing to do. So he used to throw these events that allow people to go skating, that allow people to go to these different parties that was just for high school kids. And he was smart because he knew that no matter what, high school kids are going to come because they have their parents' money to shop with. So one day at these events, I think it was like the second event we went to, he used to let us in for free. Us and the TYB guys used to let us in for free because we were popular in school. And if we go to that event, everybody else would come. So he used to let us in free. And one day at the event, I realized, like, wait, I talked to one of my best friends named Keon. I'm like, bro, do you see how much money this guy just made today? He was like, the whole skating is packed out. Like, they're not even letting people in. You got a line going from the skating ring all the way to the Amherst train station, because right there, if you know about Buffalo, it wasn't Skateland, it was called Arcadia, and the line was like so long you would think that it was like some performing celebrities there. So I was looking at the door, and he went from charging people $20 to $50 to get in. Right?
What year was this?
This was 2009.
Even now, $50 head. Can you imagine?
Bro, I'm telling you. So we're sitting there, and I'm like, yo, bro, everybody's here because of us. Why are we letting this old dude use our brand recognition? It wasn't called that. Our popularity, our clout, and make money off of us. Let's start our own promotion company.
There's that ambition again.
Yeah. So from there, we started our own promotion company. And it was mostly me, but I still use my guys to actually promote it. So I'll recruit somebody to join TYB from like every high school. So he'd be able to pass flyers out, post on Facebook in every high school, even the suburbs. Like we was getting kids from like Dunkard High School to join us. And that created like this, you could say like almost like this viral moment, pre-influencer days, right? Because you really wasn't an influencer at the time. You didn't know the term. But we were kind of like influential on social media, making videos, telling people to come to the parties. I had to literally use a fake ID to book venues because they and it wasn't a fake ID, it was just my cousin's ID to book venues because I was only 16 years old. They're not gonna let me rent the venue out. Again, like, and that was just so we could make money for ourselves. So that was the first promotion company I had. We used to throw phone parties, pool parties, hotel parties. We threw concerts. We brought Kid Ink in, which is a popular rapper from LA. And I was doing this all at 17.
So that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Walk us through when it all started to unravel.
It all started to unravel when it was like jealousy, right? So I'm 17 years old, driving to school. I got my own apartment now, right? I ended up getting my own apartment. And what happened was, to be completely honest, you had individuals from my community that were, you would say like gang affiliated or street affiliated, that start looking at us as an opportunity to start trouble with, because we had all the women, right? We had all the girls that liked us. We had all the gear. We had all the clothes. So they couldn't compete with us mentally, right? They didn't build their own businesses. They didn't build their own small businesses. So what they ended up doing was they tried to pick fights with us. And that's when it done started raveling. And me having this this Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great mentality, right? was like, wait. We threw a party, and one of my good friends got jumped at the party. So we went to the party. He got jumped real bad, and it was nothing that we could do about it. Like, because our team, our promotion team, wasn't meant to be like a gang, but we had other people on the east side of Buffalo that started, other kids that were gang affiliated, that were looking at us as prey that they could pick on and gain popularity by picking on us, showing that we wasn't tough or we wasn't street guys, or because most of them wasn't. They didn't go through anything that was. They were basketball players, they're football players, they're sports guys. I was the only guy who was like embedded into the system and identified myself with the criminal world because of my mom and me going through the foster care system, which you run into the criminal world all the time through the foster care system, because most of those kids came from those families that got themselves involved with criminal endeavors. So, yeah, one of my good friends, he got jumped when we were at one of our events, real bad, and I think that's when it took a downhill.
Gotcha. What so it takes it downhill. Obviously, people see money. I mean, we've all heard stories of the mafia shakedowns and things like that. I mean, that happens. We heard stories about needing to check in certain neighborhoods when you're in games. Like, yeah. So these guys,
and these was older kids too. Like, you got kids that's not even going to high school that end up jumping my good friend.
They want money. They want the recognition. Like you said, jealousy is a big part of it, but also they want something that you have. So just to put a cap on that, like, okay, so your friend gets jumped. I mean, what does that lead to for you? So now you're 17 years old, your friend gets jumped, but there's a big period of your life that you weren't able to practice ambition out in the open world. I mean, so your friend gets jumped, right? There's retaliation, there goes back and forth, but it ultimately winds up leading to a prison sentence.
Yes. So my friend got jumped. Once my friend ended up getting jumped, we had to show that we weren't like somebody that you could just pick on. That somebody you couldn't just bully or scare us or take us off the scene. That ended up turning us into, we went from being just a promotional crew to now we're a crew that's going to extract violence if you extract violence against us. So between 18, and this was, he ended up getting jumped when I was 18. So we was already finished with 17. It was our successful year, 16 and 17, super successful. That third year it started to go down. My other friend at one of his events ended up getting killed at Town Park. He got shot at Town Park right before one of the event we were supposed to throw. So it started looking like we was being attacked. So what ended up happening was we started retaliating. We started retaliating against people that was our enemy. So at one of my house got broken into. Somebody from my crew traded on us. Gave the opposite guys where I live. They broke into my house. Took a lot of money. Took a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of money. They took a couple $1,000s, which is a lot of money to a teenager. And they took some material stuff, and we retaliated, and that what led me into prison.
So things escalated. Obviously, you're protecting yourself, but this goes back to what we've talked about, right? It's the trap. Rules, the rules we learn to survive, and they serve us, but sometimes we're not ready, and they can serve us in ways we never intended. This goes back to not being able to scale that playbook that helped us survive when we were younger. And society just really isn't set up for ambition that doesn't have those accessible outlets. But you needed to protect yourself. Not just your source of income, but your personal safety. Yeah,
and personal brand too. So if we were looked at as anybody that's cowards or punks, we'll lose our actual audience, our actual fan base, at least because we were catering mostly to the urban community, to where certain moral ethics, and I want to say moral, certain ethics and procedures you go by. They call it the code, right? That you go by. So after my friend got jumped, if we would have called the cops, it was over for us, right?
Yep.
And if we just would have let him get jumped, it was over for us too, right? Nobody had come to our events because within the African American community, telling is a bad thing, ratting is a bad thing, and not actually getting your get back or not actually retaliating against somebody that tries to attack you makes you look weak, and that's a bad thing. And instead of letting it go, instead of trying to figure out a way to get away from that community and probably build on another audience, we end up trying to cater to the crowd. Like, look at us. We're not going to let nobody stop us. We're going to do what we want to do. And that ended up me going to jail.
And you being the one, obviously, who came from, and they talk about this all the time, right? There's street smarts and there's book smarts.
Yeah.
Some street smarts are common sense. Some street smarts are understanding that every neighborhood has its own set of rules, but there's still a centralized governing set of rules.
Yes.
You understood that better than anybody else, which also puts you in a position of leadership in their eyes, and also puts you in the crosshairs if there is anything that happens, leading you to prison.
Yeah.
But, moving into that, right? So it's a dark spot. You still had to overcome it, and you did. And this is where your story becomes even more inspiring than it already was, which you would think is impossible hearing that first half of your story. But what you prove is that even in the darkest places, that you weren't just surviving, you were still building. So again, you go back into a system, and it still doesn't stop you from building. So I really want to talk about when you were locked up. Can you share how long?
Yeah, I was locked up for 8.5 years.
8.5 years. So, and I say this all the time as well when I introduce you to people that, how long have you been out of prison now?
5 years now?
5 years. You've done more in 5 years than most people do in a lifetime. And we haven't even touched on, you did more before prison than most people do in a lifetime or experience. I cannot wait to get into what you've done in the last 5 years, but let's talk about while you were in prison, right? What made you keep dreaming when you were locked up? Because that place is made to destroy people. And you're not in jail, you're in prison. 8.5 years is in jail. It's prison. And there's a difference for people who may not understand. Okay. So what made you keep dreaming big while you were locked up?
So one of the key things about prison, and this is what I didn't understand. I went to trial, right? And the reason why I went to trial is my first felony.
And it was just one single felony charge, not multiple?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It was one charge. It was multiple charges. It was multiple felony charges because it was a home invasion. Okay. Based on the retaliation, it was a home invasion, but it was my first time. So it was like no probation, no parole. And honestly, the evidence was looking a little faulty, right? I'm thinking like, yo, you should throw this out based upon this and this and this, right? And it seemed like the judge, it really wasn't the judge, it was just the prosecutor, just wanted to make sure that I went to jail, right? Like it didn't make no sense. So I went to trial and I ended up losing. And when I got upstate, which is prison, when I got to upstate docks, one of the things that I said is I'm going to make them wish that they never put me here because I got all the time to think in the world now.
Which is dangerous for an ambitious mind.
Exactly. So one of the key things I did when I was in prison, I studied everything from economics, product management, corporate law. I turned it into Yale. So most of the time when guys are in prison, they try to study on how to get out of jail. Like they go to the law library, they become what you call jailhouse lawyers. I did that for my first 2 years on my appeal. But once I realized that wasn't going to work and I kept getting denied my appeals and stuff, I decided like, hey, since I'm here, I'm going to read all the Bloomberg Weeklies. I'm going to have a subscription to the Wall Street Journals. I'm going to do everything that I could to figure out how I'm going to be on that next level when I come home.
That's awesome. Yeah. Did you have you shared some stories with me as well when you were in there? A lot of doubters. So you had some people inside that shared your vision or that you inspired because you continue to inspire other people, but they weren't in the same cell as you. So you had to talk across cells. And like, what was that like having people who were there in your same situation just doubt you? How did you overcome that? Like, how'd you get through that?
So one of the key things was I just feel like the guys didn't understand what was actually going on. I knew we was in a transitional period before I even got locked up. We was trying to figure out what we could we create a web store? Could we sell products online? I was getting products from China. This is around the same time I was doing a party promotion. So I'm getting cell phones, electronic products from China, reselling them when I was home. By the time I got locked up, I ran into this book called The World is Flat, and I kind of like shifted my image on what I was going to be able to do. The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. Okay. It shifted on what I was able to do globally and how I'd be able to operate no matter where I was, including prison. And what was interesting, I ended up running into one of my old friends. He was in the foster care system with me too, which is Jody Anderson. So when we run into each other at Auburn maximum security prison, we like, how did you get here? How did you get here? And we used to just sit there and plan all day about what we were going to do. And these guys in prison literally was calling us pipe dreamers, literally calling us all the names that you could think about. Oh, you guys not going to do nothing. You're going to go back to the streets soon as you go home. Like, I don't know why you're reading all them books. None of that stuff is going to work. You got a felony now, right? So all the stigmas that was kind of like pushed onto them, they kind of like pushed on to us because we first time felons. Like, this is our first time ever. I literally went to jail as a teenager, prison as a teenager. So I knew it was hope at the end of the tunnel because I knew I was coming home in my 20s and I was going to be able to change the narrative when I got home. I just had to be prepared for it.
Awesome. Every time I hear this story, there's just we could go so deep into it, but in a place that is made to, they call it reformation. We know in the U.S. that's just not what it is. A place that really crushes hopes and dreams. Yeah. And you're surrounded by people with crushed hopes and dreams. You're in actual prison, so there's people who are in there for life. So they have there's never getting out. So there's no positivity coming from them. You run into somebody who you met as a child. You hear about all these crazy coincidences in life, and it's just like, whatever your beliefs are in a higher power, the universe, something's out there. Something brings things like this together. It's just a 1,000,000 to 1 opportunity, 1,000,000 to 1 chances, 1,000,000,000 to 1 chances, and they still happen. So you and Jody, then you guys meet in there. You talk about what you guys built, that others laughed at, your dreams, your $1 billion ideas, your ambitions to rewrite the system, to win in the face of all the adversity. Great. So you have a felony charge, but if you build your own thing, then you don't have to ask yourself permission. So you get through all of this. What lessons really came from those conversations that show up in your decisions today?
So the lessons that come up in the conversations that show up in my decisions today, I would say processes, right? So I understand when I noticed that the corporate world is just full of processes and terminologies, right? And if you're able to figure out process and terminologies, you're able to accomplish anything on earth because everything is built off of processes and terminology. And what we lacked and what I lacked as a youth, and even going into my teenage years, and you could say my early adult years, is that I didn't understand the process of the terminologies. And when I was able to actually internalize that, to figure out what those processes, terminologies, and what those actual structures look like, it's easy to map out how you want to do things and where you want to get and what you got to use to get to that actual point A to point B.
It's like those people we said earlier, like those people who can see a future that all of us don't get, but they understand exactly how to get there because there's a process. And then 5 years down the line, when somebody brings it back, you're like, yeah, of course they're going to get there. And you're like, but you were a hater 5 years ago. You couldn't see it.
Exactly.
You couldn't see it. Okay. So here it is. Like, most people think prison's where growth stops, but for you, it's really where the conviction got louder. And, prison didn't pause your mission. It more clarified it. And I love that. I never realized this is why an organization we're about to talk about is called what it's called. Yeah. But you talked about, you were called pipe dreamers inside prison, right?
Yes.
So, all right. So 8.5 years go by, you're out. You have a plan. You've built a plan. Jody has this plan. You guys, you've laid out your mission and what you're going to do. How did you wind up working with Stanford?
So this is what happened. While incarcerated, Jody ended up going into the Cornell. He got accepted to take Cornell prison education classes. And it was hard to get into that program, but he got accepted, became the valedictorian. They let him out 7 years earlier just to go to Cornell University.
So 7 years earlier from his sentence.
7 years earlier from his sentence, just to go to Cornell University. So when they let him out, like, we couldn't believe it. We talked about it every day. Yo, whoever go home first, this is the plays that we got to put in. We got to get to Silicon Valley. We got to start building technology companies. So when he was out at Cornell, he put money on the phone, so I'm talking to him every day. I remember I even tried to get him to implement the first company that I built up. The concept, it was called Cater. It was basically like Uber, but it allows you to sell food out of your house.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So instead of allowing people to use your house to sleep in, they actually use your house to eat. So you make food, and then you allow people to come over and actually purchase the food, like literally sit at your kitchen table.
But that's genius growing up in the neighborhood you grew up in, because it's still a food desert in parts of Buffalo. And I'm sure there are cities around the U.S. and the world where there's food deserts, and you address that.
Yeah, yep, okay. Exactly. So I sent it to Jody while he was at Cornell. He was like, yo, this is not going to work. This is not a school where you could build an app. This is not going to work. So I'm writing out all these business plans to him while you're at Cornell. I was like, yo, bro, you got to get out of there. He was like, where do you think I should go? Jody was trying to get into Harvard. I was like, nah, bro, you got to go to Stanford. You might as well try to get out of Cornell, transfer over to Stanford, and once you get to Stanford, that's where everything's going to start.
Why Stanford?
Because it's Silicon Valley.
Because it gets you there.
It gets us it gives us that platform and access to the actual tech titans.
And you knew all this being in the prison system, and there's people who go through school, come out of school, go through higher ed, and still even as adults don't fully comprehend what proximity means to making certain things come to fruition. Okay. So now Jody, he leaves Cornell. He's over at Stanford.
And once he got to Stanford, it was over. Him being at Stanford, what Jody was able to do at Stanford, I write up the business ideas of the concepts, and he will literally bring them to professors. He'll literally bring them into his network. It was at a point in time to where we'll have a business meeting. I will be in jail on three-way with Jody, and he will be in Stanford while we're talking. So I was setting up the stage, and I got like 3 years to go home now. It's over. So how we end up getting involved with Stanford is Jody ended up going there first. On my way home, right? So the first day out, I had a meeting. Jody set up a meeting with a guy who ran Google search engine. To talk about startup ideas and what we would possibly be able to do. His name was Max Smith. So the first day out, I get in the car and I'm on a meeting with Google. And with Max Smith and Jody, we in a Tesla, we driving down to New York City. Because I didn't parole to Western New York. I paroled actually to New York. Okay. Because I felt if I came back to New York, I wouldn't be able to build up the status in the corporate world, because I had a stigma from catching a felony in Western New York, being in foster care in Western New York, and then being around that same environment and that same crowd. So when I came home, I went straight to New York.
Plus, I mean, you already understand that Silicon Valley and Stanford, the proximity, in New York City, opportunities are far different than they are in Buffalo and Western New York.
Exactly. So Mark gave us some key points, and we came up with a startup called Pipe Dreamers. And what Pipe Dreamers was, this was during the blockchain crypto wave. Now, I mean, the blockchain and crypto wave is back in full effect now. But at this time, it was metaverse, blockchain, crypto. So we came up with this concept that allows youth to get incentivized for their activities within high school. So if you got good grades, we'd give you crypto. If you did some after school programs, we'd give you crypto. And it was based on the value of those activities according to society's metrics financially.
Similar to the weight program that you went through back in foster school.
Exactly. And that allowed us to get into the Stanford Accelerator for Learning program, which is an accelerator that basically allows ed tech startups to grow and build out those concepts. So that's how I got into Stanford. Through my co-founder, which is Jody, being in Stanford, we was able to put our company into the accelerator, and that's how I got associated with Stanford directly.
Awesome. So you built this program, you flipped the script, you built this product, you're out there, you guys have it. You won a couple of really impressive awards, recognitions, and then you were able to exit it.
Yep.
In when I mean exit it, you were able to sell it, but you're still affiliated with it.
Yes, we were able to sell. At first, the company was for profit. We were able to sell the actual IP. We got a group of engineers, Justin Lin, MZ, Andrew Barney. They were engineers. Shouts out to Justin Lin too, because he was like big on AI, and we should have listened to him back in 2021. But
and I keep telling people AI has been around a lot longer than ChatGPT's been around. But
he was super big on it. But they helped us build the first V1 of pipe dreamers. Okay. And when we built it, we tested it with the Oakland City School District as well as the San Francisco DA office juvenile department, and it was successful, and we had a acquisition for it. And within that acquisition, they bought the IP. We took the profits from the IP and created the Pipe Dreamers Foundation, which is a nonprofit that provides educational resources directly to underserved and justice impacted communities, mostly youth.
And you still serve on that today? That still exists?
Yes.
That's awesome. You've built a couple other startups since then as well.
Yep.
You're never going to stop there. Jody as well. I mean, both of you guys, there's so many more episodes we could do just on that stuff. So we talked about the product that came out of it. Again, you proved every single doubter wrong at that time. And not that that was your purpose, but did you feel any sort of validation, or did you forget about all the naysayers and those who sold out because you knew it was going to happen anyway?
Yeah, I kind of knew. I didn't feel any validation. I feel like I still feel like I haven't done enough, because it's a certain plateau that I want to reach. Okay, and a certain plateau that I feel that I could be on. I feel like I haven't done enough. But I was happy when we actually got affiliated with Stanford and we was able to do some incredible work with them, who still are partners today.
I mean, this goes back to you envisioned something and you didn't stop till it was real. And we hear influencers all the time. We hear successful business people. Alex Hormozzi is one of them, right? If you're not successful, then just keep going. Don't stop. And he talks about the people who are successful, they just don't give up.
Yeah.
Like, they'll fail, but they don't give up. They don't stop. So I wanna take that momentum. You could have stayed building a massive reputation. You had connections, and you still have these connections, but you had influences and connections to people like Peter Thiel from Palantir, the Milsteins who helped develop the Bronx and are doing things in Western New York. You even had, you were bumping shoulders with people in the Gates area, like the Gates is like Bill Gates, and so many more. But you came back to Buffalo to build on your own terms. So I'd like to pivot to that. Like, you have this momentum, you have this huge success. Why Buffalo? Why Western New York? Why back? Why was that the right time to come back?
So after we did the acquisition for Pipe Dribbers, I ended up coming back to New York City.
Okay, so it was New York City before Buffalo. Okay.
Yeah, coming back to New York City because I wanted to take a job, right? In the corporate world. Me building my own stuff was good, but could I actually succeed in the corporate world? So I went to go work for a company called Livin that was backed by Richard Branson. I managed their whole BD for the U.S. And that was actually a successful venture. I got to work directly downtown Grand Central Tech in New York City just to build up my corporate profile. Even though I built something on my own, was associated with Stanford, I wanted that New York City stamp as well before I got back. Buffalo, I always plan to come back to Buffalo. It's my hometown. I felt that Buffalo was underrepresented when it comes to African Americans actually leading any initiatives there. So I had to continuously build up my resume to show that I was the one. Like, okay, I went from foster care, prison, to Stanford, working with a Series A startup as the lead business development executive there for the U.S., right? That serves multiple continents. I think they were on every continent besides Antarctica. Livin was at the time. So this should give me enough recognition to where I go back, they give me a seat at the table, so I can start helping the community that I'm from and kind of like bridge that gap for other individuals similar to me, right? Similar to my story, to rise through the ranks.
And we will get Livin to be big in the U.S. again. It's going to happen. We'll get there. So this is huge, right? So it's instant credentials, and credentials matter in certain aspects, especially in the circles you run in. It opens up doors, especially. I mean, listen, you're a black man in today's world, right? Nobody can argue that some doors don't open as easy for you as others.
Yeah.
So your credentials allow you to open doors that might not be there for other people. It's impressive. You recognize it. You go after it. You don't look at it as something that's going to stop you. You look at it as a challenge that you're just going to kick down. And I love that. That inspires me every day. You reiterate that you don't need to be accepted by the system. You just want to make sure that you don't have to fight around it anymore. And I believe you're blazing paths for others, and we'll definitely get into that. So you're stepping into your next chapter now. Well, actually, before we get into that, I guess I want to do one thing before we get into your next chapter. So you come back to Buffalo. I got to know, like, how did you find me? Like, how did we get connected?
So we got connected because a lady by the name of Christina Orsi ran Tech Buffalo. I met her, not ran Tech Buffalo. I met her at an event at Tech Buffalo. Me and her had coffee after. She basically talked about me coming back to Buffalo. I told her I was on my way back, let her be involved. She wanted to know what work I was doing within the philanthropy space. I told her about Pipe Dreamers Foundation. I also told her about the tech company I had, the startup I had at the time, Studi Technologies. And she wanted to connect me more and get me more involved on the technology scene there. So she connected me with some people at UB, connected me with the Beverly Gray Exchange, and she connected me with Tech Buffalo as well too. Sarah, I forgot her last name, but Sarah, and DeMonte, they connected me at Tech Buffalo. What ended up happening, how we got connected, was I brought Tech Buffalo back up to Sharon. She was like, hey, I know the guy who originally created Tech Buffalo. And I was like, wait, they say that these guys originally created Tech Buffalo. All right, I want to show me the original. Show me the person who put this thing together. And that's how we ended up getting connected.
Oh, I got to thank Christina next time I see her. I knew...
No, it was Sharon.
Well, Sharon, yes.
Yeah.
But Christina ultimately bringing you in, or that chance meeting between you guys led to it. I mean, I thank Sharon every day. Sharon's amazing.
Yeah.
She remains an inspiration, and she's still doing amazing things for communities and those around her. She gives back more than I could ever hope to give back. Definitely something to aspire to. So, all right. So you got other startups. I wish we had the time to get into those. I'm sure we'll see those. We'll definitely talk about them more. But you're stepping into another chapter. I like to say it's not as a politician, it's as a system disruptor. But to do that, it is a political role. So, all right, we go from your whole history, you're coming up, your startup, Stanford, you have influential connections that most of us would never, ever have in our network. And all of a sudden you say, I'm going to run for a political position in upstate New York, Western New York, Niagara Falls to be specific. What made you say that? What was the driving factor behind that?
Because the system is rigged. And to be completely honest, me coming back to Western New York, I thought I was going to get this open arm. Hey guys, African American who actually succeeded from poverty to do kind of some amazing things. We need to figure out what was his pathway and kind of take that and help other individuals implement it. When I got back to Western New York, I thought that we were on this verge of innovation, right, and inclusiveness. something that they promoted heavily throughout most of the materials that you see, or most of the promotion that you see from community organizations. But then I realized that, wait, this is a zero-sums game. These individuals that's in Western New York particularly don't want to help you.
Do you think
they will? Oh, go ahead.
Do you okay? So, totally get it. Totally hear it. Do you think it's and what really bothers me about this conversation is we hear it every single day, multiple times a day. We need more accessibility. We need more equity. We need more people who look like a diverse community to understand that you could succeed. I need more people to look like me to know that they're succeeding so I could succeed. And you're this story. So we hear people say it. And now you're hearing you're available for them. And they don't take it because
they can't control you.
They can't control you. You're not part of them. So is that fear? Is that they just don't understand, and what you don't understand you might be afraid of? Or is it purely like, if I can't control him, I get nothing out of the benefit he brings, and if it doesn't benefit me, then I'm just going to do it? Which is sad, because then it's not altruistic.
Exactly. So yeah, that's exactly why I decided to run for politics. I started noticing, again, like I started noticing the structures. Most of Western New York, which I thought was a vibrant tech scene that was going on, is actually controlled by the public sector. Most of the funding is coming for the public sector to kind of like finance these vehicles that is supposed to be built in the tech sector. It's not coming from the private sector, as you see in New York City or Silicon Valley. So I noticed that if you have no political pull in Western New York, you're not going to be able to get anything done. And then I noticed that the politicians are not that intelligent, right? They're not that intelligent or innovative. They might have degrees, right? They might have went to school and got degrees from the prospective local colleges in Western New York. But when it comes to actual ever designing anything, ever running any programs, ever facing true adversity, a lot of the politicians never did this. Their positions was kind of like passed over to them. And I decided to jump into politics, because if I'm able to jump into politics, I'm able to shape the ecosystem from that position, because that's where the ecosystem in Western New York is getting shaped from, is from political circles, not the actual private sector.
When you first told me you were getting into politics, I had one of those light bulb moments, and I was like, "This isn't politics. It's totally unfinished business."
Yeah,
right. It's someone who never felt served by the system and realizes that. And I've shared this, on many episodes now, right? We have a rule at home: you're not allowed to bitch about something unless you're working to change it actively.
Yeah.
And the example I always use is, if you're complaining that you're overweight but you're not working out, or you're not trying to eat healthy, you don't get a platform to complain about that. So you're taking that same model, like, it's broken, and I could just bitch about it, or I could get involved and have actual influence on changing it. And what I respect the most is, political affiliations aside, I've watched you cross party lines, ideals, anything else, to anybody who is thinking about being productive back to their constituents. You will have conversation with, even if your political ideologies do not fully align, because it is about the output. And that's just something that everybody needs to get behind. I think we all want to see that out of our politicians. We often don't get to see them in a personal way. There is no necessarily school for politicians, especially at the local level.
Yeah.
I've watched many in my own community be appointed because somebody had to leave for a medical reason or because of life, and then they got appointed. They weren't voted in, and because they were there, they're the convenient choice. But it's not their priority at all. I mean, their priority is in their day-to-day W-2 or with their family or this. They didn't get into politics because they wanted to. They got into it because their friend tapped them on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I need somebody who's going to carry on my legacy." And that word legacy is important. We're going to touch on that because you talked about building something bigger too in the last section that we had gone through. So I want to move into that, to the legacy side of things, right? really talking about the next generation, before we get into legacy specifically, I got to ask you, what do you say to the kid hustling out of survival today? Like, what path do you show them? That 14-year-old Dante out there, you run into him. What are you saying to him?
Choose your friends wisely, and whatever motivation that you have, make sure it's backed by facts and accurate information.
So stress test your ideas. They might sound good, they get you where you want to get, but stress test them.
Stress test them.
Okay.
And anybody that says your ideas won't work or they can't work, don't look to prove them wrong. And that was kind of my problem. I always looked at to prove everybody else wrong. And now I don't look to prove you wrong.
Maybe that's another way we get along so well. I had teachers who understood in school if they told me I couldn't do something, that I would do it just to prove them wrong. And it helped me succeed in school. Yeah. But it also made me very easy to manipulate.
Exactly. So now I'm not doing things to prove people wrong. I'm doing things because I want to do them, and that I feel that is my path. So if I look at the 14-year-old Dante, I would tell him definitely choose your friends wisely. And don't look to prove people wrong. You only got to prove things to yourself.
And listen to the crazy white lady that opens up her car door to you.
Exactly.
With an exception. I mean, in today's day and age, unless you know the person. All right. So you talk about building something bigger, something that you're just not done building. You haven't done enough. There's more to do. And you've used this word in conversations with me before, and I like the way you see it versus other people. But what does legacy mean for you? And what I mean by you see it differently than other people is most people look at legacy as someday. Mm-hmm. Every time we talk about it, you look at legacy as right now. Like it starts now. It's not what I leave later. So what does legacy mean for you? Like I've never asked you to put that into words for me.
Legacy means to me what I'm able to accomplish and pass on to my community. Starting today, meaning that if I'm in a position to allow individuals to better their lives right now, I should actually start right now to make sure that the generations that's coming up after us will have an even better start than we start.
Yeah, and how I hear that is, and I mean, this just rings true for who you are, right? Legacy is, it's part about what you leave behind, but it's really what you build into others so they don't have to go through what you did, right? How do you get them to start at a better starting point than you had?
Exactly.
And then continue down a path you open for them, maybe opening new paths for the next people that you didn't see.
Exactly. And what I noticed too is that collaboration is key when it comes to legacy, right? Locally, like within Western New York, we look at ourselves as competition amongst each other, right?
There's not enough to go around. Scarcity mindset.
Exactly. But if you go to other regions like Silicon Valley, does not look at each other as competition.
Even Rochester, it's an hour away from Buffalo, and you come somewhere like here and you look at the collaboration, and that it's not the same 5 names running everything and blocking everybody unless they're involved. It's like there's growth, there's innovation. Everybody is excited for other people's wins, even if it's not their win.
Because it is their win. When you if Buffalo took Buffalo or Niagara Falls or Western New York alone, said it's Western New York versus everybody, we'd be in a better position.
I mean, think about it. Before Toronto was what Toronto was, I mean, Western New York had presidents visiting. The foundation of so much of the United States through Central and Western New York. And then, we had the big steel boom, and now we're a rust city. But Ontario and Toronto overcame it. Rochester overcame it. Syracuse is overcoming it. And I just feel like Buffalo right now, we're so afraid to let go of that past because we don't know the future. Even though we say we want it, it's hard to make it real. All right, so we went through a lot of stuff. I want to do a quick lightning round with you. So I got a couple questions I'd like to ask, just top of your head. All right. Just kind of hit it off. If there's anything that you're like, now, we move on from it, but there shouldn't be anything in there. So first question I have, the system fails when?
The system fails when it's not an even playing field for everybody.
And that's unfortunately Day and day. Okay. Clear sign someone's building the wrong way. You've started multiple startups. What's the clearest sign someone's building the wrong way?
The clearest sign you're building the wrong way is when you have no customers or no traction.
Traction's a big one. You've talked about traction to me a ton, right? You can have the brightest idea in the world.
If you have no traction on it, you're building wrong.
Yep. There's another gentleman in Western New York who started up like a circular economy company, and his first business was a cell phone cleaning thing, like the UV light. Mm-hmm. And it's a brilliant idea, and everybody wants a clean phone, but customers are like, I mean, people take their phone in the bathroom.
Exactly. If you're not getting no traction, you're building wrong.
Yep. What's one thing that kept you going when it would have been easier to quit?
Probably my grandmother. Mm. Yeah, I just didn't want to see my grandmother see me as a failure. Honestly, that was one thing that kept me like pushing to the next level.
That's big. Legacy in one word.
Family.
Ooh, like it. What's one life rule that you live by that our next guest should hear or build on?
One of the life rules that I live by is I'm not scared of the fall. I felt the ground before.
I like that a lot. I mean, I always try and remind myself that even if I fail today, 5 years from now, I'll be further than where I am.
Yeah.
But I was never able to put that into something articulate, and that I think is what it is.
Yeah, I felt the ground before, and it kind of means that I'm gonna keep climbing all the way to the top because I know what the ground feels like.
That's fair. It's like that little kid who falls and scrapes his knees. He doesn't stop running around, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He might run differently.
When you know what the ground feels like, you're able to like, okay, I could go all the way to the top because I know how the ground feels.
And you felt it more than once in your journey, and you still came off of it. Okay. All right. Last thing I have for you. This is a little bit different. You've done all the work. You've answered all the questions. You've given us so much. So I like to do something called Flip It. And what that means is I'm asking you to leave me with a challenge, something that I could take offline, something that I could work on, something that I could share with the audience or you, and the next time that we have a conversation. So I ask you, like, what challenge would you leave for me?
The challenge that I'll leave for you, James, is to be vocal about actually what you achieve for Western New York.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think if people actually realize who James Parsh is and what James Parsh has done, because nobody's going to tell what, and this podcast is a resemblance of you actually doing that. So I can say you succeeded with the challenge, but if people realize what you created in Western New York and how much people take from your pot, then people will start actually realizing that you're the go-to guy when it comes to innovation in Western New York. Because frankly, I wouldn't even know our conversations and how you got me. I wouldn't even know where to start. I would have left if I haven't met you. I probably would have left.
That's high praise. I will take that.
I would have left. If I didn't meet you, I was leaving here because I wouldn't been able to understand exactly how this ecosystem work and what it actually does to people that's innovators. Because if they're willing to just cash you to the side or just not recognize what you did for the Western New York community and how you shaped it, it makes sense on why they wouldn't recognize me.
It's hard, and this has been my whole career reflecting on that statement. I'm going to take that challenge away, and I'm going to continue to work on it. I never want to disappoint people, and I never want to get successful off somebody else's back. But I don't ask for recognition, but I've never been a self-promoter. I've always been the man behind the curtains. I'd rather succeed and let people see my success than let people see the person who had the success. But the one thing that drives me to be more vocal is to inspire others. Like, I get it. I'm a white male in today's age. Yeah, I had a childhood and an upbringing that not everybody has, and it was a little challenged. It's not as challenging as somebody like yours, but there's still people who can be inspired by our stories throughout everything. And to me, like that is always the goal. When somebody comes to me 3-4 years later and they say something like what you just said, like, that's a win. I don't need any other recognition, but how do I continue to inspire people if I don't put that story out there?
Exactly.
So I appreciate you for that. Anything else you want to touch on or go over?
Nah,
Awesome.
That's basically the whole none.
So, man, today reminded me that systems, they're broken, but they're also built to work for the people who wrote those rules. And when the rules don't serve you, you got to write your own. And there is a path to writing your own in a way that is valued by society. So this, to me, your story, it's not about redemption. It's really about refusing to settle, refusing to sell out, refusing to wait. There is no quit in there because that's not even an option. If you've been waiting for permission to build something better, I'm just telling everybody this is it. Dante, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to continuing to be inspired by your journey. I look forward to continuing to remain a part of it. I can't wait when we revisit this conversation a year or two, how much more that you have accomplished that we get to share and inspire others. And for those watching our next episode of Breaking Dogma, we're going to dive into one of the most institutionalized areas of society, higher education. We have a doctorate professor that's going to join us that shifted from higher ed to heavyweight workforce reformer. We will explore why they changed course and what they've seen behind the scenes. Really, it's about how institutions benefit from keeping degree pipelines alive and what we miss by not questioning it. But until next time, I just got to say, keep asking questions, stay vocal, and keep challenging that outdated thinking.